Oh, Advocate Skippers.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Judge President.
Morning, Council.
I'm going to start with the 8th of June, 2021. On that day, it is common cause that you went to the office of the complainant. You wanted to see her judge, is that correct?
Yes, from what appears here and from what I recall, that is indeed so.
And during that day's interaction, you shifted the conversation to her personal life there in her office.
Yes, I did.
And is that when your interest started to become more real in her, your interest in her?
It's a process, it's not an event.
I agree with that, but is that when it became more real for you?
Yes, I'm just prefixing my answer. The answer is yes, within the context that it's a process and not an event.
And during that evening, that's when your first WhatsApp communication with her started. Is that correct?
Yes, that is indeed so.
There was no previous WhatsApp communication between yourself and the complainant before that day?
To the best of my recollection, that is indeed so.
Am I correct to say that you initiated this conversation that day because you now had an interest in her? That was the purpose of this conversation.
Are you saying I initiated it because I had an interest?
Yes.
I would not absolutely agree with that. I initiated it because I felt I had been a bit invasive when, during my visitation, I discussed with her something that related to her child. So that is the starting point.
So if you say that you felt that it was a bit invasive, that means that it was not totally appropriate. That's why you needed to apologize.
I was setting the record straight. Yes, you can call it an apology. Apology in the sense that, among other things, I realized that the child was present in the office when there was this interaction. And from a reading of the exchanges, that seems plain. So the question about appropriateness or otherwise is answered to by me in that context.
When you testified yesterday, you said that on page 1157, that is now in volume 3, there's nothing of significance. But if we look at Ms. Vetten's evidence, she testified that that is typical of how harassers initiate seemingly innocuous conversations with the victims in order to move into more sexually explicit conversations. What's your comment on that?
I don't want to enter into a debate with you, counsel, and with her. That is a matter for argument. The matter of, in the first place, whether her evidence is anything to go by and whether any weight should be attached to whatever she said. So I wouldn't love to enter into that debate. I'm not sure whether it assists us.
You said that you initiated this conversation to apologize. Why did you send
to apologize?
Yes, to the complainant.
Can we go to the transcript? Can we go to page 1156? I'm trying to answer your question. 1854. Sorry, I raised the topic and you responded likewise, jocularly, in the presence of your daughter.
That's an apology, isn't it?
That is an apology, and that is the context.
But that is what I put to you.
Indeed so. But I'm saying context is everything, and it is important, Advocate Skippers. Sorry, I raised the topic, and you responded likewise, jocularly, in the presence of your daughter. We can call it an apology, we can tag it anyhow, but this is what it is. It is here, it is staring at you and I.
The question I wanted to ask was, you sent that message at 6 minutes to 7 in the evening.
Sure.
Why didn't you send it earlier in working hours, just after the conversation?
Oh, I'm a very busy person. When I'm at work, I'm on the fast lane. I had opportunity to reflect on what was happening during the course of the day. And in fact, as far as I'm concerned, the way I express myself here would have been as good as doing it during the lunch hour or during working hours, but upon reflection, this is what I did.
And despite this awareness of yours that this was not totally appropriate, the conversation that you had with the complainant, you proceeded to continue the exchange with her, and instead of maintaining professional distance, you shifted it into a more personal conversation, asking the complainant about how many children she has.
What is your question, ma'am?
You shifted it to a more personal conversation.
Could you please prefix your question? Because I also want to deal with the precursor to the question itself.
Can you just answer my question? The conversation shifted, didn't it?
No. There was a prefix to your question. It was a lengthy. Could you please repeat even the prefix?
It started
You
with...
say, even though you realize that it was inappropriate. I don't want to engage you in relation to inappropriate in terms of what. Maybe that's a matter for argument. But this is more an issue of a social skill and etiquette. So the repeated use of appropriate and inappropriate should be understood in the context of what I've just said, which is simply that this is a matter of social etiquette, social skills. I could, for that matter, not have taken it further and said, so be it. That was the discussion. Sorry, I raised the topic and you responded likewise, jocularly, in the presence of your daughter.
That is my point. Why did you continue?
Continue with what?
The conversation.
Nothing precluded me from continuing with the conversation.
You realized that it was not a topic that you should have gone into with her.
No, ma'am. Sorry, I raised the topic concerning your child. And you responded likewise, jocularly, in the presence of your daughter.
So you were apologizing for the topic of raising her child.
In her presence. The fact that I'm saying, oh, this child, you're a father, and so on. I think the affidavit, my affidavit, would you allow me the opportunity to read what I said under oath? So that I
I'm testing what
contextualize
you're
it?
saying now.
I'm testing, thank you. I understand that you are testing, but I would like to contextualize it because I see what is made big up at this point in time is appropriateness or otherwise, but let me contextualize it. Please bear patiently.
My question is a
please-
very easy question. You
It is.
apologized because raising the topic of her child. Is that correct?
In her presence and about the father and all that.
But then you continued the conversation asking about how many children she has, what ages they are, the age difference. Then you continued with
Yes, I
this
did.
topic.
Yes, I did.
Why? It is inappropriate.
No, it is not.
It was because you apologized.
Ma'am, now the hour has come for me to read from, with your indulgence, Chairperson, because context is everything. I would like to read from my affidavit. It may take some time, but so be it.
Mr. Kakane, are you able to assist the witness? The relevant page. Yes, please.
Actually, the consolidated volume, my affidavit in the consolidated volume is page 69. Oh, I found something. Page 70 of the consolidated bundle. Page 70, small 70, right on top in the middle. The starting point is page 70. Shall I continue to read from page 70, Chairperson?
We have your affidavit and we have dealt with it. If you can just answer the questions.
Are you
I would
precluding
appreciate
me? Are you precluding me from
I'm
reading?
just asking you to answer the question. Please continue.
I do not particularly take kindly to the way in which you are treating me, Counsel. I said I would like to read, and then I'm saying I'm ready to read. Then when I say I'm ready to read, you repeat a question. Let me read. Page 70. A reading of Annexure B1 shows that I was expressing myself more as a parent than otherwise. I did not gain the impression that Ms. Mengo was uncomfortable with the conversation or that I was bothering her after I had expressed the opinion that girls look after their parents and so on and so forth. I'm also looking for a phrase much later on, if there be here, that relates to what I believe is social etiquette. But you can pose your question once again. Maybe I am lost. What is the question, ma'am?
You continued with this conversation knowing that it was inappropriate.
No, I did not continue with the conversation knowing that it was inappropriate. Firstly, context is that I was discomforted by the fact that I had spoken about a child's father. The complainant having said the father is absent the father is an absent father. All this was discussed in the presence of the child. So the center or the subject there, and everything else is subservient, is a social etiquette issue, which I thought let me deal with the complainant. To answer the question directly then, the child was no longer there. I was talking to the mother. So within the context of what I've just said, there was nothing inappropriate talking to her.
So you agree that at this stage the professional boundaries was now crossed. There was no longer professional boundaries between the two of you from your side.
Yes, this is a social issue.
When you calculated the age difference between herself and the child, what was your intention of doing that?
I was just asking how old the child is, or how old the child was.
No, you calculated the age difference between herself and the child. What was your intention with that?
I will need to read and remind myself and refresh it. Page?
Page 1159.
Thank you. She's turning 12 this year. Nishiana 16 or 18 years. It's a rhetorical question. Did you really calculate that?
That's my point. It's not a rhetorical question. You did calculate that. What was your intention in doing this?
To establish the age of the complainant.
Then you continued after that to compliment her on her youthful appearance.
I did.
The complainant testified that at that stage she became uncomfortable and did not know how to respond to you.
Question?
I put it to you, she did not know how to respond to you because you are the judge president and she's the secretary. At this stage, she became uncomfortable.
I did not gain that impression. Certainly not from the conversations. And she too did not give me to understand otherwise.
But that is what she's saying. She did not know how to do that because you are a superior to her. She respects you. You are the judge president.
What is the question?
The question is, I put it to you, that she did not know how to respond the way you wanted her to respond.
That is not my understanding. That may be what she said when she testified, but based on what I'm seeing here, I don't see anywhere where she was uncomfortable with what we were talking about.
During her testimony on the 13th of January 2025, that is in the transcripts at page 68, lines 1 to 3, she testified as follows. I have to respect him as someone who is also in charge. Even the manner in which I would respond to him, I will have to be very cautious. That is what she understood.
What she understood about my posture and authority.
The way
and all
she
that.
had to respond to you.
Well, so be it. That is what she says.
Do you accept?
And I dare say, perusing the complaint itself that served before the JSC, well, JCC, JSC, and now the tribunal, which is basically the mandate and what should be considered. And I'm not saying evidence should be kicked away, but what I need to say is simply that she might harbor this understanding, but I never understood it the way she is now articulating it. I never imposed myself as a JP when I was talking to her, certainly not upon reading here. So in our social setup, it doesn't matter what culture it is. You don't deal with people from the perspective that, do you know that I'm a JP? And therefore, when we talk, you don't deal with life from that perspective. When I was conversing with the complainant, in spite of the fact that I'm a judge president and the top lawyer, according to everybody's understanding and the media, of course, even though it is so, but when I was chatting here, I was a social being.
But you cannot take away the fact that you are the judge president. You do not have to impose it on her because you are the judge president. And she knows that because you say now, everybody knew I am the top lawyer. She also knew that.
The direct answer to your question is, I never imposed myself as a judge president. The conversation was not between a judge president and a secretary or a junior staff. It was a conversation between two adults. I was simply a social being when I was talking to her in this instance. I don't remove my JP-ship.
That is your understanding, but the complainant's understanding is totally different.
I note that.
The statement that I made, or the part that I read to you now that she testified, take away the fact that you are the two parties in this. If you hear this statement, that I have to respect him as someone in charge, even in the manner I would have to respond to him, I will have to be very cautious. Do you accept that in that statement, there is a power imbalance in that?
We must tread carefully when we talk about power imbalance. I say so because we don't have to be singling out each and every utterance that was made. Because during the same night, the very same person you portray as somebody who's junior, I concede he's junior in terms of age compared to me. But now she says, then you must determine what you are looking for. So a nitpicking type of approach may not assist the tribunal. That is my view. She is free to express herself the way she did when she was testifying. But what I want to highlight, this was not a JP versus secretary conversation. This was a conversation between a man and a woman, between a male and a female. I was a social being. And as indeed I've said, it's a social etiquette issue. When I say, hey man, you joked, you responded likewise jocularly in the presence of your daughter. That had nothing to do with me being JP and she being a secretary to a judge. So this was a social interaction. Unless there's a theory that JPs should talk only to other JPs or the CJ or other senior official. Unless there is that notion, which I believe flies in the face of social reality.
You agree that then this conversation turned from being social to being more sensual.
True.
Why did you ask for a photo from her?
Because I was steering things in that direction based on the fact that I had developed an interest in her
But at this,
during the conversation.
yes, but if we look at the conversation before you asked her for the picture, you haven't established that she wanted this relationship that you are seeking.
I have yet to read a book, ma'am, where we are told, you know what, when you are interested in a female, a girl, or a woman, these are the steps that you must take. Firstly, you must greet them. You must go for pleasantries. You must then buy her a chocolate, and so on and so forth. Ma'am, I have not been charged here for flirting in a particular manner as against another particular manner. The issue is whether the chats were welcome or unwelcome.
That's the point. You had to establish that it was welcome. The fact that you asked for a photo, you haven't established whether or not that would be welcome at that stage.
I did not have to ask whether, would you welcome if we were to do something A, B, C, D, E? That is, as far as I understand it, that is not how people propose, or that is not how people express their interest when it comes to others. You may have a particular way, and I sorry to have to sound personal. You may have a particular way, you sitting there, in relation to how you would love somebody to propose you. I don't have to get into that.
You don't have to get personal with me because I'm not party here. We are talking about the complainant. She indicated.
No, I'm just expatiating.
Can I finish? She testified that it was unwelcome.
Not
and you have not established on what we see here whether or not it was welcome up until that stage.
No. The issue of whether it's welcome or unwelcome is something that must be considered within the context of what was discussed. And we can continue and peruse. If she did not welcome it, she should have said so. She did not say that.
I've already mentioned to you because she did not know how to react.
She did not know how to react.
It's just
I don't
a comment.
believe that.
When you replied,
sorry, you made a proposition, and then you continue to ask a question. Let's deal with that proposition.
We have already dealt with that. When you replied with the word kidding, after you asked her for the photo.
Page?
1164.
Thank you. 1164.
Yes.
Kidding is the follow-up on high.
Yes.
High flows.
I'm still busy phrasing my question.
Oh,
I haven't finished.
Sorry to interrupt you.
When you replied with the word kidding, was that an attempt to backtrack because you recognized or realized that your request was inappropriate?
Not at all. Far from that. Now the hour has come for me to explain it. Will you, maybe a few pictures you send may serve as halfway proof, me talking. The response thereto is, we'll try to take more, but currently lost the most. My phone deleted everything recently. The high is a sequel to that interaction. The high part, because we must deal with high, HAAI at 1929. So when I say kidding, I am saying, well, insofar as, let's start with the high. My phone deleted everything recently. I'm saying, come on, I don't believe that. So high is in that context. And then flowing from that, I'm saying, well, I'm kidding. And then the conversation continued. And we've got to read further to understand the context. That is my answer to your question, ma'am.
So what was the reply of kidding about then?
I've just explained it.
No, I don't understand what you explained.
Repeat.
No, you don't have to say everything. I'm just saying, is it because of high? Were you kidding when you said hi, or were you kidding about the request for photos?
I'm going to repeat. I am saying, she says, my phone deleted everything recently. In disbelief, I say, hi. And then I'm saying, well, I'm kidding. So, which means that which relates to her saying, we'll try to take more, is the dominant clause in that communication. The rest is subservient.
The dominant clause is you asking for pictures.
Come again?
The dominant clause is you asking for the pictures, not her reply.
The dominant clause is, I will try to take more pictures. I'm talking about the dominant clause, particularly in relation to what was discussed at 1923 at page 1164.
Now, she did not send you pictures at that stage. Now, despite this, you persisted in asking for pictures, for photos. You testified like that yesterday as well. You persisted in asking for the pictures. Is that correct?
Yes, within the context that there's a difference between persistence and persuasion. Persuasion is more negotiation, and that is why I said at page 1165, if it won't offend.
When she responded with the fact, like you say, that she will take photos and she will send it to you. She did not send it to you immediately or for a while. That was not out of genuine agreement. That was an attempt of her to avoid further engagement.
Is that your take of it after the event?
That is what this complainant testified.
She is not absolutely correct in articulating it that way. Certainly not within the context of these discussions. Few that you have got at 1930, the answer is, I will do. So I'm not sure if there's anyone who is qualified to read more or less into what is contained there. But she's stated what she stated under oath when she was testifying. But all I'm saying is it's not borne out by the context, because she does not only say, I will do, then she also says at 2022, ubuzifuna kwangoku na.
And the translation to that is, were you in need of them, or you wanted them as in of now?
Uxolo bendisajima.
My apologies, I was still gymming.
Then I say, if it won't offend, and that attracts a wink from her. So I'm saying, let's not, with due respect, or put it this way, in a manner of speaking, it is not going to help this tribunal, for me or for whoever else, to be nitpicking and read things out of context.
Yes, context is very important, and who else can give the context than the complainant? Because what she thought is what she conveyed to the tribunal.
What she thought is not what she conveyed to me. She conveyed something to the contrary, which is that I will do, 1. 2, if it won't offend, there's a wink.
But then she doesn't do that. And would you say that when someone says, I will do, but don't do it immediately, only after you keep on persuading her, that is not necessarily true consent?
Is that so?
I'm putting it to you.
I disagree.
And then you keep on asking, few that you've got.
Indeed.
And she keeps on putting you off by not doing what you wanted her to do.
She keeps on not saying she won't do. She keeps on not saying it will offend her as part of the negotiation and the discussion. I'm at page 1165.
Did it not cause you to question whether her failure to send you the photos indicated that she may not want to send you those pictures?
She did send pictures.
After you continued persisting in asking that. I'm asking at that stage.
Shall we then use the word persuasion and negotiation? Because I contextualized it. She has said she will do. I said, then she says, I did not realize that you want these pictures right away. I am sorry. I was still gymming. And I say, if it won't offend. Ascertaining or testing the room. So point of substance is that from a reading of this and sitting where I am today, I can't find anything in the form of a rebuff. On the contrary, I find cooperation between two adults in the context of what was being discussed here. Nothing such as a rebuff. I am not going to take issue with the testimony that she gave. She chose to testify the way she did. But looking at it from what I am reading here, it flies in the face of this.
You testified yesterday also that you can read the room. That you read the room during the conversations that you had with her on WhatsApp.
Well, and indeed so, yes. And indeed, in the context of where we are now, we are at page 1165. In that context, I'm saying, if it won't offend. Why am I referring to that? It is because of the manner in which you engaged me in this debate that we are engaged in. So it is to point out that, well, you know, at every twist and turn, I thought it was incumbent on me to read the room, so to speak, and I did exactly that.
I put it to you that you did intentionally not read the room. Actually, what you did is that you ignored what you did not want to accept, and you simply read what you wanted into those conversations.
I disagree.
You ignored the fact that you asked her 11 times in one conversation, that first time that you conversed with her on WhatsApp, for photos.
Sorry, I don't understand.
You asked her 11 times during that conversation of the 8th of June, 2021, for photos. In fact, you even begged when you said, please, PLZ on 1165.
Which also appears at 1167, because there is such a thing as persuasion and negotiation.
By not seeing that she is not responding positively to you, there's no negotiation. It's only one-sided. Asking.
That's a matter for argument. I disagree with your proposition. I disagree particularly if one goes to 1167. 1167, you will see that she did send a picture to me prior to that point. There is that picture. That picture was sent by the complainant. It was not downloaded from a status. Or let me wait, because I see you are talking to somebody.
I'm listening, you can continue.
Oh, okay. Sorry then. She did send a picture, ma'am. Let's deal with that. At 1167, I comment to a picture that she sent to me. It looks stylish. Then when testimony is given, the stance is that she did not send a picture to me, which is not correct. It's not borne out by this transcription, or put it this record. So fact of the matter is, you see at 2032, at page 1166, it's quite clear that prior to 2032, on that day, she did send a picture, and that has been deleted by whosoever for whatever reason.
And that was never put to the complainant during cross-examination?
What was never put?
That she deleted that photo.
No, I'm just talking about an objective fact, what we see here. I'm not dealing with what my lawyer did or what they did not do, my competent lawyers as far as I'm concerned. Let's deal with the issue, Advocate Skeppers. Your proposition seems to be predicated on the fact that she was not willing to send a picture, and she did not. That notion is not correct. She did send a picture, and objectively, we can now see. We know because when one comments on one status, it is different, it shows differently. And therefore, I'm saying to you, it is clear from what we are reading here that she had shared a picture at some point before I commented stylish.
It is also clear that you persuaded and persisted in asking for pictures.
The problem with sorry to have to put it like that, the challenge that I have is that you must accept that she did send a picture. But in light of how things unfolded, you won't be able to show me from this when exactly she sent that picture. Counsel.
We don't know when she sent that picture.
Counsel,
that is correct.
Sorry. Maybe let me express my disquiet. When you ask a question, I respect you. When I respond and you talk to somebody else next to you, I must express my disquiet when it comes to that. Please, let's deal with what you raised. I am saying, from the objective facts that we have, she did send a picture. The challenge that all of us have here is we don't know when she sent it. And I don't expect anyone to say she did not send a picture, because it should be clear to all and sundry that she did send a picture at some point before I commented at 2032 for self-serving reasons or for whatever reason. It may be nefarious or however, but we can't then say when exactly during the conversation.
This fact that you commented on a photo that she sent to you, that was never put to the experts whether or not it could have been a status photo.
Advocate Skippers, this is a matter determinable independently of expertise. It is staring at us, ma'am. You know, when somebody comments on a picture that one has sent, by now we should know. Let's just undertake that exercise. And I'm going to page through, which is what I'm doing, page 1202 at random.
You did show that to us yesterday.
Yes.
I did see what you meant yesterday,
Yes,
but
it
it
is.
was never asked from experts whether or not it could have happened that a comment on a status picture could have been the way it's depicted here. That was never canvassed.
Are you saying because it was never put, therefore it never happened? Yes, you are free to put it that way, but my response, which I am free to give to you, is that you don't need to have a degree to see this. It is determinable logically. We can see she did send a picture, to which I commended stylish. And when she testified saying she did not send a picture, she was not telling the truth.
In any event, that photo that you responded on as stylish is not a naked photo. It's someone fully dressed, is that correct?
Absolutely correct. So we are now moving from the premise that she did send a picture.
I'm not saying she did send a picture. You replied to a picture which she said was a status upload. That is her version.
Sorry maybe to have had dealt with it the way I did. I have established, I believe, that she did send a picture. This is determinable from just a naked eye. Objectively, she did send a picture. She was not truthful when she said she did not. So that is her picture, in fact, to which I commended stylish, and to which she then responded, "You've got a fine eye too," at 1167.
And in this quest of you asking for photos, you escalated this interaction
Yes.
by asking her to remove the top part. That is now on page 1165, Kulula Umkla, at 2028.
Yes, I did.
She testified that she understood this to mean that she had to undress her upper body for the picture.
I did not understand it that way. I'm the one who said it. Afford me the opportunity to explain myself. In this interaction, where, as you can see, this person seems to be wearing a jacket, if I'm going to say to you, and I would like to appreciate your appearance, and I say, take off your jacket, this is the context. That was what I was saying.
Why would you ask her to take off the top part of her garment?
You can see she's wearing a garment there.
But why did you ask her to remove it?
No, because I just wanted to appreciate her appearance, because as far as I was concerned, the jacket was obstructive.
Of what?
Obstructive in the sense that it doesn't give me a full perspective and view of how she looked.
What did you want to see? What did you want to see more of how she looked?
I've explained it.
No, you haven't.
I'll repeat.
What? You said you wanted to see more. What more did you want to see?
If I stand up wearing a jacket, you may not see how I am structured because there's a jacket.
So you wanted to see her body?
I was not denuding her. I wanted to see how she is made up.
Would you agree that even suggesting this type of image by removing your top part to see her body,
Her body.
the structure
Yes.
of her body, especially in the absence of a personal relationship and in the presence of professional hierarchy, amounts to sexual harassment?
I disagree.
Particularly when she does not adhere to your request.
She did adhere to my request to share pictures. She did send a picture to me.
The request of removing the top part.
Fine, so be it. I did not persist. I was satisfied with her not doing it as part of the interaction, the flirtatious interaction. So your question is loaded with a number of notions. You mentioned quite a lot of things. Could you please unpack it so that I assist the tribunal? You said something about power and everything else. You loaded quite a number of things. I want to deal with your...
I did not say anything about power. I said, requesting this type of image by removing the top part, especially in the absence of a personal relationship, because there was no personal relationship yet, and in the presence of professional hierarchy, amounts to sexual harassment, particularly when this recipient is not adhering to the request.
I disagree with you. I'll tell you why I disagree with you. It might be that it's more a matter for argument, but sexual harassment at the core thereof, or at the center of it, is the issue of whether conduct is welcome or unwelcome. Whether you read it from the perspective of the Employment Equality Act, or you read it from the perspective of the Code of Good Practice on the Prevention of Harassment, at the center of it is the issue of whether the conduct is wanted or unwanted. So my answer is simply that she had sent a picture, she had met what I requested from her, I commended stylish, she responded saying, "You got a fine eye too." This is a discussion between two adults. From what I'm reading, I don't find anything that encapsulates unwantedness.
But that's what we have to unpack. How she felt. She felt it to be unwelcome. The complainant responded to that request of yours to remove the top part, to say, we'll try later. That is also on 1166 at page 2028.
Yes. Thank you for reminding
She
me
said
about
there is
that.
none, I will try later. She
Yes.
explained when she testified
Yes.
that saying no directly would not give her peace. She believed that you would continue pressing the matter. That's why she replied the way she replied.
I disagree. That's an ex post facto formulation to suit what we are about and to champion this cause that I have addressed myself to.
Then even after this picture that you replied to, you were not satisfied. When she
Yes.
didn't send you the photos by removing the top part. You engaged further and you message her by saying robbed. And that is
Yes.
at 1167 2049.
Yes, correct.
Again, you indicated your dissatisfaction and pushing the conversation further.
Let's go a bit back. I said few that you've got. The word few at the center thereof could mean 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, depending on what you've got as quantity. So I think we should move from that premise. The understanding was few that you've got, I will do. So when you send one does not mean few. So my persuasion and negotiation is based on the conversation, which I now see how it unfolded, which I'm now, as I read it, I am beginning to understand how it unfolded. And therefore, I disagree with your proposition that you are putting to me.
Few that you've got was after you asked her for her to remove the top part. You were referring to that.
Not
And
necessarily.
when she did not send that to you, you said robbed. So you
I
were
said
pushing
so.
this further.
No. We must understand that there is, every time, ma'am, you talk to the person next to you, I'm going to stop because I've expressed my disquiet in relation to that.
Chair, can I
Because
just clarify?
insofar
Can you
as,
please just wait?
sorry,
Can-
I'm
ma-
addressing you, ma'am.
JP, if you wouldn't mind, give me a minute.
Can I just take control of the situation if nobody minds? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify.
Thank
I represent the complainant. Part of my role here is to give instructions on the complainant's version. When I give Ms. Skippers a message, that's what I'm doing. I'm not distracting from you answering the question, JP, and I certainly don't intend to do that, but it is necessary for me to pass notes to her and to try and give her instructions on things on behalf of the complainant. I will certainly try and do that in a way that's not obstructive to the questioning, but it is moving quite fast. So, and I don't want to ask for adjournments. So I'll bear in mind the JP's concerns, but just so that you understand my role as well. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, my concern has nothing to do with Advocate Badlander. My concern has to do with Advocate Skippers, insofar as she is posing questions to me, and when I start proffering an answer, then I can see she's talking to somebody else. I've got no problems with whoever wants to talk to her as these proceedings unfold. I believe I'm entitled to what I'm saying. I need protection in this regard. I need to be respected. I feel disrespected when somebody is going to pose a question to me, and when I'm busy answering it, she does not look at me, she talks to somebody else. I can't take it beyond that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Advocate Skippers.
Thank you, Chair. I hear what the JP is saying. I am following what he's testifying. So, and I don't see there was any break in the conversation between us, but I hear what he's saying.
Can I just say this, that JP, it's very much like an advocate busy with cross-examination, and sometimes the attorney whispers into his ear. I think it is in that context that the interaction between Advocate Badlander and Advocate Skippers.
I have no problems with that. What I used to do in the 22 years that I practiced as an advocate, whoever I'm talking to, I would then say sorry and then take instructions. And I've registered my disquiet in the context that Advocate Skippers poses a question. When I'm busy answering it, then she talks to somebody else. I don't want to take it beyond that.
Yes.
I don't want to make a mountain of, well, out of something, so to speak, that may be a heap. I've expressed my disquiet. She now understands how I feel about it. Thank you, Chairperson, for allowing me to explain myself.
Yes, let me finish what I wanted to say. We may have to accept what Advocate Skippers says, that she does not mean disrespect. And when she would be doing that, perhaps a problem would arise only when she says, repeat your answer because I didn't hear your answer because I was busy with Advocate Butland. Then that could be a problem.
Yes.
But if she feels that she can manage to pick up a word or two from Advocate Butland while you are giving your answer and still be receptive to your answer and duly consider your answer, then it should not be a problem.
It should not be a problem. I agree. It's more a social etiquette issue. When somebody is talking to me, and then when I'm trying to engage them, then they look at the other person. I don't wish to take it beyond that. I understand
Yes, I
what the
think we should
chairperson
leave
is
it
saying.
at
Thank you
that
very much.
point, with the assumption that should Advocate Skippers be receiving a word or two from Advocate Butland while you are busy giving an answer, the assurance she gives us is that even though she'll be doing that, she'll definitely be following your answer.
Thank you for the assurance.
Yes.
Thank you. Then after you wrote robbed to her, her response was the emojis of the see no evil monkeys. That was a clear indication of her discomfort. Yet again, you repeated robbed, but this time in the vernacular at 2051 on 1168.
I disagree with what you are saying. It does not find support from a reading of this, certainly not the way I see it. Please afford me the opportunity to do it. These are playful cliches, these are playful words. Robbed is a rather deep, crude word, but here the conversation is playful. It is in the same context that I would understand when the complainant at some point says to me, well, I want you, when you get here, to find me ready, things like those. So this is playful. So I don't attach the weight that you attach to the word robbed in the context of a flirtatious, playful interaction. You will see that sometimes it's about apportioning percentages in the sense that in my mind, I'm saying, this person has said, I've got a few. Then I'm saying, please send me those few that you've got, and so on and so forth. So it is within that context that I disagree with your proposition.
Then after you told her you robbed me in the vernacular, she replied by hyena at 2051, and she indicated that that was a clear refusal. She did not want to send you pictures.
Negative or negative. That's not correct. We now know that hyena is not a rebuff, at least by now, from the interaction that we have been engaged in. I, at some point, said, it says Ebana or Batung, as we were guided. It is not a rebuff. And it is followed by and it, which I believe aligns itself with my thinking and how I read what was happening here.
During her testimony, the translation that we got was that it was no. And even after this no, you proceeded to call her a trickster at 2052 on 1168. Do you see how this continued persistence constitutes pressure and undermines her refusal?
You are not correct. I disagree. This is why I disagree with you. You keep on predicating the notion about this interaction to interpret hyena as high, meaning no. It is totally incorrect. It is not compatible with what happened soon thereafter at 2053, which is and it. So my understanding is that, as I've been trying to explain from time to time, and it has been tried to explain, this was an interaction. There's playfulness in it. You can't attach to everything that is said here the meaning that you are now seeking to attach. Nikati were robbed. We laugh at it. no one can say Haini and then at the same time laugh. That can't be a rebuff. Or at least as far as I was concerned, and as I said in my affidavit, this is all playfulness.
According to the complainant, it is not playfulness. She indicated that the reason why she said earn it was not because she wanted to flirt. It was because she felt uncomfortable and unsure how to respond to the inappropriate request from someone in your position. Someone who is not a friend and not entitled to such personal content.
I did not understand earn it from an adult female to mean what you are saying now. I disagree.
Then that night you continued the conversation, repeatedly steering it towards photo request, at one point even writing, "I'm not demanding too much." And that was not a question. Because there's no question mark. You are not saying, "Am I not demanding too much?" You chose to write, "I'm not demanding too much."
Where
There's
is
a
that?
difference.
Where is that page?
Let me just get to that.
So sorry to have to do that to you, ma'am, because I want the context.
No?
It's going to help me respond to your question.
Where's that one?
Because I want to see, oh, sorry. Because I want to see what was said immediately before that and immediately after that and during. Then I will contextualize my answer.
Thank you. If you can just give me a moment, I just want to find it. At 1170 at 2110.
All right. 1170 at 2110. Is that where she says, you must know that when I want money from you, you will give it to me? Is that where you say it?
Yes.
What point then are you making?
You did not ask her, "Am I not demanding too much?" You said, "I'm not demanding too much." So you're making you put it to her that you are not demanding too much.
We may engage in a terminological fight, or shall I say terminological issue. Whether it was in the form of a question or a statement, the effect is the same. When I say I'm not demanding too much, she could then have said you are demanding too much. She did not say that. So my response is that even before we get to 1170, we must go back a bit, because some of these things are happening within seconds. There's N it at 2053 at page 1168. I've addressed myself to my understanding of N it as part of this game between one who fences one person and the other, and how I understood it. Then at page 1169, 2053, you are tricky. She laughs at 2054. Then she says at 2054, it's part of the task. And it. Then at 2055, will do, responding to go halfway now, the rest for another day. These are playful exchanges between, this is how I see it, between the complainant and I. And then, shall I say, in a manner of speaking, boom, bang. At 2110, she says, "Yaziba mna xa ndifuna imali uzawundinika." Even if it had been a question formulated as follows, will you give me money if I want it? It doesn't matter. Even if she says, you must know that when I want money, you will give it to me, I am treating it the same way she did. Her evidence that yaziba mna xa ndifuna imali, if I remember correctly, she sought to put it in the form of a question. And I'm saying, whether it is a statement or a question, my view is it's neither here nor there. It is a discussion. When I say I'm not demanding too much, I'm saying it was available to her to say you are demanding too much, which she did not do.
She did.
How so?
By saying, I wonder, when I want money, would you give it to me? Because you are now asking her to give you something. Now she says, I wonder if I ask you for money, if you would give it to me.
I disagree with your proposition. That is a formulation ex post facto, which I believe it should be argued in the final analysis. It's meant to pursue a particular view, which is not correct.
The complainant testified that she
Yes.
knew when you ask someone for money, he will go away.
That was not my understanding. As I said, insofar as I said, I'm not demanding too much. Whether it's a question or a statement, it was available to her to say, you are demanding. And her response that, yazi ukuba mna xa ndifuna imali uza kundinika. You must know that when I want money, you will give it to me. It's part of the bargaining process, negotiation, so to speak, persuasion on the one hand, response on the other, a lot of playfulness along the way in the context of flirtation.
She further testified that she felt that you were trying by all means to get what you want, and that is on the 14th of January 2025 at page 17, lines 15 to 17.
Yes, she said so. And that's in keeping with her having said to me, earn it. Not just that, it's part of the task.
So you agree that you were trying to get what you want?
I agree that I was persuading her in keeping with what she had said. Earn it. It's part of my persuasion. She said, she invited me, she challenged me to earn it. And that's exactly what I was engaged in.
And when she didn't respond to you, you then say, shame, you must be sleeping.
Where are we
That is
now?
on 1173 at 2153.
Yes, that is preceded by a lot of conversations. For instance, at 1162, sorry, because I may be seen to be taking a roundabout fashion in answering your question. At 1172, I expressed myself there. Actually, it's 70% when adding the other one. That is what she said. But now, in my view, she had sent more than one picture. So 1 + 1 is equal to 2. But we don't have a trace of that having happened.
According to her, she did not send
No, I'm
pictures.
saying according to the context. When one says 1 + 1 equal to 2, it means there's more than one. That's why she says actually it's 70% when adding the other one. I am saying because of this trend, starting from the picture that she directly sent to me, from what we see here, starting from that, and when we see her saying actually it's 70% when adding the other one. Now, these arithmetical engagements, you will agree with me, or perhaps let me state my side of the story. These are jocular engagements, apportioning marks, and so on and so forth. 70%, she says, actually, it's 70% when adding the other one, which tells me that at some point she must have sent another one. Seated where I am now, I am not better placed to testify in relation to that, but at least I know the one picture that she sent directly, and we can glean from this is that at least there is one, and there is no trace from what we are seeing that at some point and when during that night she sent it. Sorry, it was a rather long-winded
I don't
answer.
understand why you answered the way you answered, because I was asking about the message that you sent to her, shame you are sleeping, and now you spoke about photos.
No, I was just saying before we get to shame you are sleeping, sorry for that, at 2153, shame you are sleeping. How else do you, when talking to somebody during the night, how else do you establish whether they are still part of the conversation or not? That's how I was expressing myself.
This was an
For
attempt to-
instance, at 21:41, she laughs to that jocular picture that I must have sent. Then I'm saying, Bendilinde wena ngengoma, I was waiting for you. I engaged you in relation to something else, which she laughed to. And then there at 21:43, Bendilinde wena, she sends a laughing emoji. I reciprocate likewise. And then I say at 21:53, shame, ulele. So the question then is, I realized that she is asleep. I was ascertaining whether she is asleep and whether she would further engage.
because you wanted to reignite the conversation.
Yes.
Why did you feel the need to keep the conversation alive that time of night?
Because it was convenient to do so.
It
We
is-
were both awake.
Say again?
We were both awake.
You didn't know that because you asked her if she's asleep.
No. At 21:43, she sent a laughing emoji. Your question is, why do I engage at that point in time? I'm saying,
No, I'm asking why did you feel the need to reignite the conversation because you said maybe she's asleep. That's why you asked the question. Shame you are sleeping.
it was a way of establishing whether she's asleep or not, and further to test whether she could still engage further. Then indeed, she responds at page 1174, 2208, no, andikalali, bendisalungiselela for tomorrow. No, I am not asleep. I was still preparing for tomorrow.
That's correct, JP.
Then I said okay to that.
It is also recorded that you asked her to delete the messages.
Yes, and she did likewise.
Say again?
And she did likewise. She encouraged us to delete these messages.
But we now know she did not delete the messages.
Come again, ma'am?
We now know she did not delete the messages because we have the messages.
She must have deleted.
No, we
Surely-
have the messages.
No, she must have deleted. I tried showing you exactly that.
I'm not talking about the few. I'm saying, you say that she did delete the messages. That means everything.
No, I'm not saying everything. I'm just saying your question is based on my question, shame ulele, and I say I was establishing whether she was asleep or not. Direct interpretation. And she understood likewise when she says, no, I'm not yet asleep, I'm preparing for tomorrow. I don't see where the problem is. Please point it out to me so that I can assist the tribunal.
I'm asking you asked her to delete the messages. You deleted all the conversations, is that correct?
Let's go for where it is said. Remember to delete, please. That is at 22:22. She responds at 22:24. I have long time. For what? I ask. When this bout of conversation is over, and then at 1175, page 1175, at 22:25, I delete all texts. My current phone that I'm using has not sufficient space. I don't have memory card. No need to worry. So I'm saying, at the level of our understanding, both of us understood that there has to be some deletion. And I was assured.
That might be your view, that you understood her to understand that it must be deleted, but she did not delete it because we have the messages here.
You say she did not delete?
I'm saying she did not delete these messages that you requested her to delete.
I will keep on going back, maybe for the last time, because I don't want to unnecessarily prolong these proceedings. Let's go to page 1166. We are still involved in this inquisitorial inquiry. And maybe let me just mention one thing. All or more of these experts are free to come back at your instance, Advocate Skeepers, or at the instance of whosoever. But I'm just mentioning that in passing. Let me go back to 1166. I am saying she sent me a picture to which I commented stylish, but we don't have a trace of that, which therefore means that she did delete and deleted reference to message deleted, which I never did.
The complainant disputes that, and we don't have any evidence to the contrary on that.
But it's quite clear here, objectively speaking, it's quite clear that I could not comment to a non-existent picture. We see it. It was sent by her. It is not something uploaded from a status picture, which she gave the tribunal to understand. It is not correct. So it is from that premise, ma'am, that I say there was deletion. Also, I have already mentioned it when I say she said at page 1172, 2126, actually it's 70% when adding the other one. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. So when you delete, this message was deleted. With me, that is what is happening. But with her, you don't even see a trace of this message was deleted. But at least for now, and based on what I've just said, it should be determinable with a measure of relative ease that she did delete, because I would never have commented to a non-existent picture. Ma'am, that is my short answer.
You requested her to delete these messages because you realized that it was inappropriate. Is that
No,
correct?
I explained myself in my affidavit. And she too, at some point, raised the very same notion. Shall I refer the tribunal to page 92 of the consolidated bundle? The starting point to my answer is that we were ad idem that there should be deletion. At some point, deep into the conversations, she encouraged me to also delete. She said, "Are you deleting these things?" Because the communication was deeply sensual at that point. Page 92, paragraph 49. When Ms. Mengo makes allegations of messages allegedly sent by me, but does not attach screenshots thereof, I do not have independent recollection of such messages, especially because they were deleted. I'm saying then, and I qualify it, due to the fact that my family does have access to my phone, leaving me in a position where I may not proffer a meaningful response. Now, I put those in brackets, but the dominant fact is that I had a reason to delete. So what is the question? Please remind me.
The reason is because it is inappropriate.
I disagree. I disagree. And maybe it is at this point where I would like to register my view about things. That at some point there may be disagreement because the question is posed from a moral perspective. At some point, it may not necessarily be the position, but I wish to remind you, the issue here is whether these chats were welcome or unwelcome.
I agree with you. That is what we are trying to establish.
Yes, and therefore, within that context, I am saying, let's steer clear of moral issues. And maybe it is opportune stage, with your permission, Chairperson. You will steer me in the right direction.
No, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wish to say something, maybe for the last time. So we now know that in terms of the law of South Africa, at the center of it is whether conduct is welcome or unwelcome in the context of sexual harassment. The standard is legal and objective, not based on private morality or religious codes. Whether a person believes in adultery, does not condone it, thinks it's sinful, or thinks their conduct was not adultery, is completely immaterial. Those are moral, theological concerns, not legal ones. Going back to why we are here, the issue is whether the conduct was welcome or unwelcome. So the use of the word appropriate will always have a context. If my feeling is that a moral issue is being raised, I will answer accordingly.
Are you finished?
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
The complainant testified that once you knew that she was deleting the messages, it gave you the confidence to continue in the same manner.
Come again. Once you knew?
That the complainant testified that once you knew that she was deleting the messages because she now told you that she is going to delete it, that gave you the confidence to continue in the manner that you were continuing.
Indeed. That made me understand that we are on par, we are ad idem on the topic at hand. We are flirting at this level where we were. It's an introductory, flirtatious thing, or at least at the level at which it was at the relevant point in time.
That conversation continued until 11:30 that night. Is that correct? Almost 11:30. That is on
According to-
1177,
Oh, 1177. Oh, yes.
2335.
Oh, yes. It continued. I even sent a funny video laughing at it. She likewise responded to the video. What is his problem? Maybe akakwazi. I defer to superior wisdom.
What is his problem? Maybe akakwazi. Maybe he can't or he's not able.
I can't remember exactly what this conversation was about, but what I can see from what is stated here, it is a funny video. We are both laughing at it at that particular point in time. And all she says is, it doesn't look like this person is skillful in what they are doing. So yes, it was 2239. And then in response, 2335, there's that emoji.
That was an hour after her last message to you. You wanted to reignite the conversation again at that stage.
Yes,
So there was an hour silence.
indeed.
Now, given your years of experience as a presiding officer and a legal person, do you agree that the mere fact that she did not directly refuse or block you does not equate to consent to this type of conversation?
As a judicial officer, putting myself in the situation, even if it means I must be a judge in my own cause, all I can say is the question of how you establish consent is based on context.
I agree with you.
And therefore, I'm not sure whether you are saying there was a misjudgment on my part. I'm not exactly sure what you are trying to establish. What are you
Yes.
trying to establish, ma'am?
The fact that she did not directly say, refuse you or blocked you in this initial conversation does not mean that she truly consented.
In my view, it does not mean that the conversations were unwanted. I'm just talking now at a social level and invoking logic.
You testified that the tribunal must listen to your take of the version of what was meant by the chat. Is that correct?
Not necessarily so. I'm saying the tribunal must look at everything that's happening. The tribunal must even traverse the fact that this very complaint, when it was lodged, bulk of information was not placed before the commission. From what I heard seated here, there's something like 1593 minus 1539. It means 13 minus 9 is equal to something, and then 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. So it means there's quite a chunk of information that did not serve before the JCC, that was not lodged as part of the complaint. I am saying judgment on the part of the tribunal should be based on everything, things done and things not done that were supposed to have been done. Lies, fabrication, and the motive thereof.
They must also look at the complainant's side. Her version is that this conversation was not flirtatious. She was embarrassed and did not want to engage with you.
They must also look at the incongruities in her presentation, vacillation in the sense that we've got a complaint where she said certain things. The tribunal must also look at the fact that those things that are there are not consistent with her testimony. They must look at everything. Or at least you're asking me if as a judge what I would do. That's what I would do.
She did not understand this as ukumutsa, as you put it Monday. She understood this as sexual harassment, and that is why she laid this complaint.
She's incorrect. An allegation is an allegation. I see the shape of these proceedings from time to time. Even the chairperson had to interject. When something is said about somebody has been threatened, the way in which the tribunal is addressed, it's as if it has happened. The same approach is adopted, which is that because she is alleging, then it means that sexual harassment. I have previously mentioned that the fact that she lodges a complaint, it is an allegation. It does not necessarily mean it is correct. Otherwise, it would be a far cry from the jurisprudence of this country, which is that somebody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. This should apply even to sexual harassment complaints. The notion of once somebody complains that they are being harassed, therefore it means you must be treated in a particular fashion. You must be ostracized. The media must demonstrate that here is this person. You've got journalists who are going to say, this person is filthy. How can you invite this person to come and talk as part of a panel at the University of Forte and so on and so forth? I would appeal to you at least, and maybe this sounds personal, that my view, and this, if this is repeated, I will keep on repeating it. The fact that she has lodged a complaint of sexual harassment in circumstances where I believe it has been made demonstrably clear that there were lies in material respects does not mean that there was indeed sexual harassment. That's a matter for argument.
I never said that there is sexual harassment proved here. I said she understood this as sexual harassment. That was all that I said.
Yes, but I'm saying you are pursuing that in this proposition and in our engagement. And I'm saying that proposition, with due respect, is fallacious. It has yet to be proven. So I've said a lot of other things within the context of what must be proved. For instance, what happens if somebody lies in material respects? Is that really a complaint? But I don't want to be a lawyer in my own case. I don't want to take it beyond that.
Maybe I should say this. JP, you can rest assured that whatever people may think, whatever the court of public opinion may think, when a person is accused of sexual harassment,
Yes.
in this tribunal, there's no point of departure which says the person is guilty. Because otherwise the proceedings would be a charade.
Yes.
Otherwise the outcome would have been determined already.
Yes.
And I can give you an assurance that irrespective of what the public opinion thinks about this case,
Yes.
irrespective of what anybody may think about this case,
Yes.
we are going, first let me say, we don't view you as being guilty already, as you worry. Irrespective of what the court of public opinion may think, irrespective of whosoever may think what, we are going to decide this case on the facts before us and in terms of the law. irrespective of who may think what. You can rest assured.
Thank you very much for the assurance. And I would like to say I should never be interpreted as saying anything about the tribunal itself. I am actually addressing myself to questions that are posed. And I defer. I trust the tribunal. I trust the decision makers. But what the point I am making is that there's something like here in Xhosa, kungaqhuma kubasiwe.
Once where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. That's the direct translation.
Yes, I'm trying to engage Advocate Skeepers at the level of propositions that are made to me. I'm trying to steer her from the pathway that I believe she's seeking to walk on. Thank you very much for the assurance, Chairperson.
I think we should understand properly the role that Advocate Skeepers is to play here. I think she's the leader of evidence in a very difficult case. And I think we should, until the contrary is indicated, accept that she's doing her best and to be as fair as she can possibly be. For the rest, everything else remains with us as member of the panel. We are literate. We can read and write. That's why we're here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Yes.
We're going to read every single message.
Yes.
And understand it in the way that we are capable of understanding that message.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, Advocate Skeepers, for engaging me so that I even got to a point where I addressed how I see things. It is not meant to...
JP, I'm going to interrupt you. The floor is mine.
Thank you.
And the floor shall be mine.
Thank you.
I think the clarifications have been made, and I think we should go back to the case.
Thank you. Sorry for interposing.
You also understand that I have to put the version and what the complainant her views to you. That is part of cross-examination.
I understand that you've got to put to her all her versions, number one. You've got to put to me all her versions.
And that is what I'm doing.
No matter how you may feel about those versions insofar as they are incompatible. I agree.
Now, even when you had the slightest doubt on whether or not this was consensual from both parties, because if we have a look at the messages, it is not clear that she was a willing party to this. As a senior judge, when you had the slightest doubt, you should have stopped the engagement.
Which doubt are you addressing yourself to? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. Fortunately, we are at page 93 of the consolidated document. Chairperson.
Yeah, Advocate Skeepers, I'm not comfortable with the way you formulate your questions. And I raised this thing yesterday. You say it is clear from the messages that what?
Oh, let me rephrase it. The complainant testified that the way she responded was a way for her to inform you or to show you that she did not want these messages. She did not know how to voice that to you.
I have disagreed with that, at least that part of the question. But there is the question that resulted in me going to page 93, because you were beginning to, with the way I see it, you said something about a senior judge. You were beginning to say as a judge, what. So I was quick to refer to paragraph 50, but let me restrain myself because I would like to hear you on this issue about me being a senior judge in the context of what we are about.
Unless Advocate Skeepers feels otherwise.
Yes.
You are about to refer to a certain page. and then I interjected. And Advocate Skeppers understood my interjection.
Thank you.
And that should put paid to any need to refer to page 93.
Thank you, Chairperson.
And then
I
we can now move
understand.
forward.
Thanks.
Advocate Skeppers.
Thank you, Chair. You also testified yesterday that you can read the room and you qualified that. For instance, when someone keeps quiet or does not respond for a long time, that can mean that they are not so willing to engage in the conversation. That was what you testified.
That can't be accurate. I'm simply saying silence is silence in a situation where something has been raised, in a situation where somebody is free to say, no, I don't want to engage.
Why do you say it cannot be accurate? That is what you testified.
Can you please read what question was posed and the answer, because I'm not keeping notes. I would like to get context to what was being discussed.
You testified on the WhatsApp messages to say that you realized that, or your view was that it was welcome.
Yes.
It was from both sides.
Yes.
And then you qualified this to say that you can read the room.
Yes.
For instance, when someone keeps quiet, this is your words.
Yes.
When someone keeps quiet or does not respond for a long time, that can mean that they are not so willing to engage in the conversation.
It does not necessarily mean that.
That is what you testified.
No, I'm just saying thank you for engaging me in relation to that. I don't want to necessarily backtrack. I'm simply saying context is everything. If, for instance, somebody is going to keep quiet during the night and this person is the first to greet me the following morning, it may negate the suggestion that she was unhappy on the previous night. So there are various scenarios and there can't be absolutes when it comes to this. So that's why I'm saying, even if you quote me, context is everything.
Yes, context is important. Even Dr. Docrat said that. We can now move to the 9th of June.
Page
That is 1178.
1178. Yes.
There you initiated the conversation on that morning.
Oh,
is that
yes,
correct?
I did.
And that was at 5:33 in the morning.
Absolutely, yes.
Why do you think that this is appropriate to WhatsApp her that's this early in the morning?
Because there's nothing inappropriate with that. It's a matter of convenience. I think there was a similar question. I answered it in a similar way. My answer will not change.
You did not receive a response after that
Yes,
for 4.5 hours.
true.
And then you sent a message again at 10:10.
Yes,
Why are you so quiet?
yes,
Still you don't receive a response.
yes,
4 minutes later,
yes.
you then again start a messenger. Maybe you woke up late. So you are probing her. You are trying to get a response from her.
Indeed.
The complainant eventually replied at 11:08, stating that she had been busy.
I see that.
This was clearly, according to her, this was clearly an attempt to indicate that she was not available for conversation. She did not want to engage in conversation.
That is not what the answer conveys. That is not my understanding. And indeed, once she says, well, I got busy, at 11:10, I said, chat much later. And indeed, because it was during working hours. And I further said, if circumstances permit, this is what I said at 17:05, meaning that there was a lapse of time between 11 and 17 hours.
Where she did not respond to you?
No, talking about me, ma'am, 11:78. At 11:10, I then say in response to her, when she says, morning, I woke up early, but I got busy. And then I say at 11:10, because I must have been busy. We will chat much later. This is me talking. That's 11. And then Some hours down the line at 17:04, I then say, if circumstances permit.
That is what I said. There was no reply from her in between your two messages.
Yes, I've said yes, that is indeed so. But I'm also indicating to you that there was this chat within the context of you saying, if she doesn't respond, it means she didn't like it, which
I did not say that now.
You are no longer saying it.
No, I said I did not say that now.
All right. Ma'am, can you remind me then what the real question was? Because if I went astray, I would like to assist the tribunal.
I was still getting to the question.
Oh, sorry then.
Despite this, when you kept on asking her or messaging her, you persisted messaging her later in the day, and the complainant testified when she gave evidence here that she intentionally delayed responding as she was uncomfortable with your messages and was hoping to avoid engagement. That is what she testified.
I'm listening to you,
Do you dispute
telling
that?
the tribe. I'm not disputing what you say she said, but I'm waiting for the question.
She further indicated that your continued attempts to engage her were unwelcome and irritating.
I disagree. That is not borne out by the chats and the context and everything else.
Now, when you said if circumstances permit, that was because you saw that she's not responding now to your messages. This appears to be a further attempt to keep the conversation going despite her lack of engagement.
You will see I communicated with her at 11:10. I must have gotten busy. And then I had said, well, we will chat much later. That's how I expressed myself. And then I realized that at 17:04, which is 4 minutes past 5 p.m., then I said, let me qualify what I said earlier on. If circumstances permit, I was qualifying what I had said.
And then she further told you that she's still busy at work.
And I said, oh, sorry.
Indicating to you that she doesn't want to talk to you. She's
No.
busy.
No, it doesn't mean she doesn't want to talk to me. I disagree with that proposition.
That is
Because
what she testified.
Yes, indeed. I can't dispute that. That is what she said. But I'm saying, still busy at work. That's what she says. And then I say, okay, shame. Sorry, okay, at 17:25, which means I understood that she was still busy.
And then there was no reply from her. And 3 hours later, almost, you then replied again to say, oh, shame, maybe you are sleeping.
There's no reply from her to what?
Okay, to your okay. At 17:25,
Oh.
there's no reply from her.
There's no need for one to reply to, okay, let's go back. Still busy at work. And I say, okay. So what response should that elicit? I don't understand.
Let me put it this way. There was no messages from her.
Indeed so.
And then you said, oh, maybe you are asleep, shame.
Correct.
Did this not show you that she did not want to engage in
No.
conversation with you?
I disagree.
Chair, I see it's almost 11. Maybe it's an opportune time to take a tea break. At
Yes,
this
we'll
stage.
come back at quarter
Past.
past 11. Thank you.